Ryuken Ishida is another one of those characters within Bleach that we don't see very often, but is beloved by a lot of fans of the series. We know that he is one of the last pure-blooded Quincy's in existence, and he is the only son of Ryuken Ishida, but we primarily know him as the father of Uryu. In addition to this, Ryuken also holds the position of the director of Karakura Hospital. From his few appearances within the story and what we learn from the character of Uryu, we learn that Ryuken has very little interest in his Quincy heritage, and there is a significant quote from chapter 124, which is his first appearance within the story. He tells a younger Uryu that there is no point in saving the dead, because that's a Shinigami's job. He should instead, like himself, focus on saving people who are still alive. He had told Uryu that he wasn't interested in Quincy, and he would rather that the Quincy died out with his father's generation. When Uryu had questioned Ryuken as to why he hates the Quincy so much, he had told him because there is no money to be made from being a Quincy. Of course, we learn a lot more about their race through the 1000-Year Blood War arc, which helps us to explain why Ryuken may have distanced himself from the traditions of the Quincy. So while outwardly Ryuken may appear to be cold and dismissive, there is more to his character than meets the eye. And in this video, I want to talk about everything that we know about Ryuken Ishida, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll know more about his character, as well as understanding why he behaves the way that he does. So without further delay, let's begin my breakdown and analysis of Ryuken. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. Like I had mentioned, Ryuken makes his debut appearance within chapter 124 of the manga and in episode 44 of the anime. His first appearance is of course a flashback, which takes place during Uryu's battle against Mayuri during the Soul Society arc. Ryuken appears to be middle-aged as he looks about the same age as Isshin. Similar to Uryu, he wears thin frameless glasses and this pretty stylish grey suit and a tie which usually has Quincy crosses on it. He is always dressed smart because of his profession as a doctor, and like I had said in the introduction of this video, he is a very cold and dismissive individual, and it genuinely appears as though that he hates the fact that he is a Quincy. He makes it clear to a younger Uryu that there is no money to be made from being one, and he would rather focus his efforts on saving the living instead of helping the dead. Ryuken was quite happy not to pass on the traditions of the Quincy to his son, preferring that the Quincy would become extinct with the death of Ryuken Ishida. From what we can gather in chapter 124, he had advised Uryu not to be like his grandfather, and the pretty funny contradictory aspect to all of this is that there are Quincy crosses throughout all of Ryuken's life. Like I had said, he wears Quincy crosses on his tie, we see the crosses littered on the walls and the floors of Karakura Hospital, and through the Everything But the Rain flashback arc, we learn that a younger Ryuken had cared more about the future of the Quincy when he had spoke about Masaki wanting to marry him out of happiness, because if she is happy then it will be better for the future of the Quincy, instead of associating her happiness with having an arranged marriage with him. We know that something must have happened between this instance of this young Ryuken who appeared to be proud of being a Quincy, to the point that we see him in the present timeline of the story, where he has a lot of indifference or disdain for the Quincy. I believe that Ryuken had started to hate the Quincy after the death of his partner Kanai Katagiri, who was of course Uryu's mother. After her death, we see that Ryuken had performed a surgical procedure on her and had dissected her body. When Uryu had seen this and he was pleading with his father to stop, he had become disgusted with the profession of a doctor. But at that time, Uryu didn't understand the reason as to why Ryuken was performing this surgical procedure. Uryu's mother had fallen unconscious on the same day that Masaki was killed, which was the 17th of June. This of course was the date of Ashwanan, where Yhwach would remove the Quincy powers of all of the impure Quincy. Uryu's mother would survive for a further 3 months until she had died. After her death, Ryuken had performed an autopsy on her, and we can understand that this autopsy had taken place over a long period of time, and we first learn about this in chapter 659. During this procedure, Ryuken had discovered a silver blood clot within Katagiri's heart. It was at that point that he understood that this was the cause of her death, and I'm pretty sure that he understood that the leader of the Quincy was behind this, and it is excellent foreshadowing on Kubo's part that he would write into Ryuken's character such a disdain for the Quincy, and we later learned that this hatred had stemmed from the fact that the leader of the Quincy was responsible for his wife's death. We know that Ryuken had removed this silver blood clot and had later forged an arrowhead from it, and in chapter 682 he hands it to his son so that he can use it against Yhwach in order to immobilize him. And throughout his appearances within the story, we learn that Ryuken has a unique friendship with Isshin, and it's pretty similar to how their sons converse with each other. We see the two of them together in chapter 241, as well as at the end of the 1000-Year Blood War arc when they arrive within Waterworld. Now I want to talk about the past of Ryuken, focusing on everything that we learn about him during the Everything But the Rain flashback. In chapter 536, we learn that Ryuken had met Kanai Katagiri when they were both children. We learn that she is a mixed-blooded Quincy, and it was her job to protect Ryuken, who is pure-blooded. In a way, she had devoted her life to him from that moment, and she had stayed by his side for the remainder of her life. We learned that Masaki Kurosaki was taken into the Ishida household so that they could preserve their pure Quincy bloodline. It was decided that she would be having an arranged marriage with Ryuken. In chapter 530, we see Ryuken discussing this prospect with Katagiri, as he states that Masaki wouldn't be happy with marrying him, while Katagiri responds by commenting upon how kind Ryuken is, that he is taking into consideration Masaki's feelings. She states that it would be good if he wants to marry her out of love, but Ryuken responds by dismissing this notion, as he states that if Masaki wasn't happy, then she would not have a positive outlook for the future. And the future that he is speaking about is not their own personal future, but rather the future of the pure-blooded Quincy, as they are the last of their kind. When Masaki had sensed that Isshin was fighting a hollow, she had rushed out to help him, but Ryuken had tried to stop her. He had explained to her the customs of the Quincy, which are to wait until a Shinigami dies in battle, before the Quincy even think about facing off against a hollow. And even then, it is preferred if a mixed-blooded Quincy should be sent out to battle rather than a pure-blooded one. Masaki refuses to listen to his reasoning. In chapter 533, Ryuken would sense that Masaki had won in a battle against the Hollow White, but the following chapter, Ryuken's mother ends up scolding Masaki for having broken the Quincy rules and facing off against the Hollow on her own. Ryuken then rushes to Katagiri as he realizes that she had told his mother behind his back. He questions why she told his mother, despite the fact that he had reassured her that nothing had happened to Masaki. Katagiri responds by stating that Masaki was injured after the battle with the Hollow, and if she doesn't receive proper Quincy treatment, then there is a chance that the Ishida bloodline could become tainted. Ryuken doesn't seem to be interested in the Ishida bloodline, as he questions why she would do this for just a reason like that. She responds by using Ryuken's own words against him, as she recalls that it was Ryuken who had said that his marriage to Masaki was for the future of the Quincy. Masaki then collapses to the ground as a hollow hole begins to form in her chest. Carrying her in his arms, he rushes out of their home, and as he is about to be attacked by a hollow, he is rescued by Isshin, but he starts to blame the Shinigami for being the cause of Masaki's current symptoms. But not too long after, Urahara arrives and explains to the two of them that Masaki is undergoing holification. He then explains the only way to save Masaki's life, which is for Isshin to tether his existence to Masaki's and for him to give up his Shinigami powers. Ryuken obviously doesn't believe Urahara, as he doesn't want to accept that this is the only way to save her. He doesn't believe that Isshin would do something as selfless as this, to lose so much, to let go of his life as a captain of the Gotei 13, just to save a girl that he had only met a few days ago. But after Isshin agrees, Ryuken is completely surprised. At the end of chapter 536, he leaves Urahara's shop and bumps into Katagiri. She questions whether if Ryuken had left Masaki behind with the Shinigami. He states that he did. He tells her that he no longer has the right to protect the Quincy because he couldn't save Masaki. While he is devastated and saddened by the current situation, Katagiri refuses to leave his side, as she reminds him that it is her duty to serve him. She states that from the day that they had met, she had devoted her life to him, and that she cannot bear to see Ryuken sad. Not too long after this incident, Masaki had left the Ishida household after she had graduated from high school. Her soul had ended up being mixed with a hollow. It appears as though Ryuken was behind the decision of Masaki leaving their family. In a sense, it was like his way of letting go of her. We then learn that Ryuken had ended up marrying Katagiri, and she would give birth to their son Uryu. Now, within the present timeline of Bleach, his first appearance takes place in chapter 186. When Uryu is about to be killed by a pair of hollows, he appears to rescue him. He scolds Uryu for referring to him by his first name instead of calling him dad. Uryu is surprised that Ryuken still has the powers of a Quincy. After all, he despises them. He had assumed that he had given up his powers a long time ago, but Ryuken refers to him as a fool. He states that he had chosen his words very carefully. He had stated that he was not interested interested in Quincy's, while adding that Uryu doesn't have the talent to be a Quincy. He states that it is unfortunate that his powers are harder to get rid of than Uryu's were. Whether if Ryuken is interested or not, nothing changes the fact that he is the sole heir to the powers and skills of the late Ryuken Ishida, Uryu's grandfather, who is referred to as the last Quincy. Ryuken holds up Ryuken Ishida's Quincy cross as he reveals that it is now in his possession. He tells Uryu that when he went to the Soul Society he wasn't strong enough, and this is the reason why that he had lost the very little power that he had. He then tells Uryu that he can restore his Quincy powers, but on one condition. He must swear to never involve himself with the Shinigami ever again. We catch up with Ryuken and Uryu in chapter 226, where we see the two of them training. Uryu appears to be battered and beaten, as his father is putting him through his paces. He is repeatedly firing arrows in his direction as Uryu desperately tries to avoid them. When Uryu appears to be slowing down, his father questions whether if he has reached his limit. At this point, Uryu can barely move his arms and his legs, but he is aware that his father's spiritual pressure appears to be weakening also. On the onset of their training, Ryuken had told Uryu that if he continues dodging his arrows, he would regain his powers, but Uryu questions whether if his father was lying to him, because if they continue like this, then there's no doubt that Ryuken's going to kill him. When Uryu reaches his limit, his father fires an arrow right through his chest. He explains to Uryu that you have to push your mind and body to its very limits, and while you are in that condition, if you are struck by a Quincy arrow approximately 19mm to the right of the heart's sinoatrial node, then you will end up regaining your spiritual powers that were lost while in the Quincy Let Steel form. In chapter 241, while Uryu, Chad and Ichigo are traveling to Hueco, we get a flashback where we see Ryuken stood outside of their training room smoking. While he was out, Uryu was approached by Urahara, as he tells him that Orihime was kidnapped by the Arankas. When Ryuken returns to the training room, he discovers a note left by Uryu, and coincidentally at the same time Isshin appears and greets him. It is here that we learn that the two of them have a lot of familiarity with each other and have a shared past. Ryuken realizes that Isshin has regained his Shinigami powers. Isshin questions whether Ryuken is going to read the letter that Uryu had left him, but he states that he already knows what it says. Isshin then teases him by saying that he let Uryu go with Urahara and purposefully didn't stop them, but he tells him to mind his own business. After all, Ryuken had helped Uryu get his Quincy powers back, and it is now none of his business what he chooses to do with them. He is pretty cold and dismissive here, as he states that it doesn't matter whether if he lives or dies, and I'm not sure if he's just pretending to be cool because Isshin is here. But then their exchange ends with a very interesting comment, as Isshin comments upon his harsh parenting style, but Ryuken tells him that he is still a better father than he is, to which Isshin replies that Ryuken is right, and this is most likely in reference to how Ichigo doesn't know anything about his past, including the real reason as to why his mother was killed, and the identity of his father as a Shinigami. We don't see Ryuken again for the remainder of the Aranka arc, and he makes his next appearance within the Fullbring arc after Uryu is cut down by an unknown assailant. When Orihime and Ichigo arrive at Karokuro Hospital to see Uryu, Ryuken appears to be tending to his wounds, as he questions whether if Uryu should be allowing visitors to come, especially if he is going to be irritated by their arrival. He is referring to Uryu scolding Ichigo for coming to see him. Throughout this entire hospital visit, Ryuken appears to be taunting Uryu. It is like he is actually really disgusted at the fact that Uryu was cut down. At this moment, Uryu doesn't want Ichigo to get involved with the situation, so he is not sharing any information with him, despite his father taunting him and stating that sharing information is important. Ryuken ends up walking Orihime home and reveals to her that Uryu wasn't attacked by a Shinigami or a hollow, and he is unsure about the Ryatsu that he had examined within Uryu's wound, as it is unlike any that he has ever seen before. He genuinely knows nothing else about the individual who had attacked Uryu, and it is through Ryuken's character that we begin to question the true identity or nature of the individual who had attacked Uryu, as Ryuken questions whether if the enemy is even human, even going as far as to say that the enemy's power is closer in nature to Orihime's and Chad's rather than a Shinigami's. He warns Orihime that the next possible target for attack is either Chad or Orihime, and this pretty much sums up his involvement within the Fullbring arc, and we already know that he appears within the 1000 Year Blood War arc right towards the end. In chapter 674, we see Isshin and Ryuken use a portal that Ryuken Ishida had once used in order to escape from the Quincy. Isshin states that he is grateful for Ryuken's father for allowing them access to use the portal. Ryuken even agrees, as he states that this is the first time that he has been grateful for his father's habits. Isshin then hilariously states that Uryu only speaks bad about Ryuken because Ryuken speaks bad about his own father. We of course know the rest of Ryuken's involvement, as in chapter 682 he hands over to Uryu the still silver arrowhead, thus concluding Ryuken's involvement within the story. And to be honest, I think that it was such a missed potential, especially during the 1000 Year Blood War arc. I had felt like it was Ryuken's time to shine, and it was really a missed opportunity as we could have seen so much more of him, and he could have been so involved with the story, especially because the enemy were Quincy. It would have also been nice to see Ryuken Ishida's role within the Quincy explained further. Why was it that he had to use a portal to escape from Waterworld? And it was that very portal that Ryuken and Ishida would use to assist Ichigo and the others at the end of the arc. Again, all of these questions are left up in the air because of the rushed nature of the conclusion of the 1000 Year Blood War arc. So much more could have been done with it, and genuinely I would love to see Ryuken and Isshin have more of an involved role within the final arc when it is adapted into the anime. But we're at the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What do you think about the last Quincy Ryuken? After inheriting this title from his father, he had also acquired all of the skills and abilities of Ryuken Ishida. He was one of the most mysterious characters within the entirety of the story, and in a sense we still don't know much about him. So I want to know, what were your thoughts about Ryuken? Do you feel like he had some wasted potential? And do you agree with me that it was a missed opportunity not to have him more involved within the final arc? I would love to read all of your comments, so definitely continue the discussion after this video. And once again, thank you for making it to the end, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach character analysis video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.